Wow, very cool.
Yeah, here we go. We're winging this thing.
Winging it.
So here's a book. If you are so interested in donating to our cause, and our cause being the Reds Community Fund,
There you go.
come see us afterwards. So I'll start before Randy gets into his spiel, because really the book is deeply personal to him in a kind of fun way. Show of hands, who all here has heard of the Big Red Machine? How many have heard of the 1981 Reds? How many know about the plight of the 1981 Reds? Okay, just a few. All right, Randy, tell them about why this scar still runs deep for you.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having us here. It was really a privilege, really a privilege to have this opportunity to write this book with Grant. Wow. Yikes. My voice is a little bit different after last night.
He was dressed up like Pete Rose last night, running around the Moorline house.
Do you all have calendars? Okay, please mark the last Wednesday of March of 2026. It will be the 14th annual opening day eve party. It'll be at the Moorline house, and you're all invited. Okay? That's right. So 1981 was actually one of the most consequential seasons in Reds history, but not in a good way. I was in law school in 1981, and I lived with a couple guys who are Cardinal fans and Tiger fans. And Grant will tell you the story, but Bowie Kuhn essentially screwed the Reds that season by declaring a split season and deprived them of the right to be in the postseason, even though they had the best record in baseball. Many of you might remember the banner that the Reds displayed on the last day of the season, baseball's best record, and yet they were denied entry into the postseason. Well, the Saturday before the season ended, I was sitting in a local establishment called Melman's Pub, talking to my two friends, and we'd been outraged all week at what was happening. I mean, the baseball was getting ripped for this decision about the split season. And so we decided that we needed to take action. And so the following Monday morning, after working furiously all Sunday, we filed a lawsuit against Major League Baseball in federal court in Columbus, asking for an injunction preventing them from starting the playoffs. We got a little pushback from the dean of the law school.
Just a little bit.
We got a lot of pushback from my future employer at the time, Frost and Jacobs. And the following morning, Judge Canary, great judge up in Columbus, Ohio, he called us in. Actually, we learned on the radio that morning at 7 a.m. I woke up. The alarm went off, I turned on the news, and it said Judge Canary has scheduled a hearing at 9 a.m. this morning on this request for a temporary restraining order. I was like, uh-oh. And I thought, I might need a sport coat. And most college and law school students don't just have a sport coat laying around, but I found one somehow. We went down there, the three of us, and we walked into Judge Canary's chambers, and he did not appear to be in a good mood, which was not a good start. He says, boys, do you know where the clerk's office is? Yeah, Judge, that's where we filed the lawsuit yesterday. He goes, I suggest you walk back down there and file a notice of voluntary dismissal. Yes, sir. So the lawsuit only lasted for 24 hours. But it was actually a very well thought out complaint. We should have won. Part of the book is what would have happened had that lawsuit gone forward. So we tell the story of a trial and the result from the judge, whose name was Joe Jackson. So we have some references in there to the Black Sox, et cetera. But so I had fun with that part. I was a lawyer. I enjoyed writing fiction throughout my career. So it was a natural, okay? And so and it's actually one of the most consequential seasons in Reds history, because imagine had they gone to the World Series and won the World Series that year after winning in 75, 76, 81. Do you think they would have had the worst record in baseball the following season? No, they lost some players. They would have attracted some free agents. I mean, the franchise would have gone off in a completely different trajectory had justice prevailed in 1981. So I'm going to turn it over to Grant to tell the story a little bit more.
Yeah, so our story is one of corrective justice, I think is a term you loved from your law school days, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So where I come into this story is I wasn't born until 1988, so I'll age Randy by saying that. About a month into the pandemic, which seems like eons ago, but was just 5 years ago, Randy gave me a call as I had no girlfriend, no pets, had far less going on in my life, and just driving down Riverside Drive trying to fill time, and he called me. He's like, I have an idea for my next book. I was like, I'm all ears. I have literally nothing to do, and can't go see any of my friends, can't see my family, can't even see Randy in person. And he explained to me what he just told you about the plight of 1981 Reds, that there was an anniversary year coming up in 2021 for the season, and I was immediately hooked. I'm, as was told in my bio, huge sports fan, bigger Reds fan, thanks to this guy and his generosity throughout all my life, taking me to so more Reds games than I can count. And so immediately put a plan into action, started researching. I, being the trained journalist, did most of the fact-based reporting that dealt with the baseball stuff. Randy was left to the fact-based legal history, which was actually fascinating for me to read too. And he wrote it in a way that I think people will understand. My girlfriend, who is here, understood it, and she didn't have any questions about the law-related stuff. She just had questions about the nerdy baseball stats that I inserted. So that's the story of. During my research, I knew about the plight of the 1981 Reds a little bit through the split season. I didn't know just how badly they were screwed over. And to add a little bit of more context to what Randy said, the Reds, with the split season format, you had to finish in first place in your division. And there were two divisions in each league back then.
Because there was a split because of the strike.
That's right. Because of the strike, there was a player strike that was provoked by the owners, which Randy goes into great detail about in the book. And you had to finish first in your division in either the first half or the second half of the season to qualify for the playoffs. The Reds finished second in the first half and the second half, but they had a cumulative record of 66-42, which drums out to a 99 win pace over the course of a 162 game season, and they didn't make the playoffs. So I was immediately retroactively very irritated by this, and so I put that to good use. And we weave all of the stories in that throughout that season within the book. Johnny Bench is still on this team. He actually called Dick Wagner before the season, then the Reds general manager, who took over for Bob Howsam, and told him he didn't want to play catcher anymore. And no one else on the team wanted to move off first base, so Johnny actually still played catcher, moved to first base, had a great season. Dave Concepcion had one of his better seasons in 1981. He was still around. George Foster was George Foster. Ken Griffey's still on that team. Ray Knight. Pitching staff led by the great Tom Seaver, the late great Tom Seaver, Mario Soto. And we ended up weaving fact and fiction throughout this whole story. And it came to a unique conclusion thanks to Randy's imagination and of a reimagined World Series. And
We're not gonna blow the ending in the book, okay?
Yeah.
We might tell you the Reds make the World Series. Judge Joe Jackson decides that they should be put in against the Oakland A's because the Oakland A's had the best cumulative record in the American League that season.
And there's a couple other things weaved in there that I think draw attention. The 1981 season, for those who remember, was just a great for baseball in general. Pete Rose, topic on everyone's hearts and minds today, was chasing the NL hits record and actually got the tying hit, I think the day before the strike happened, off Nolan Ryan. So how's that for baseball history, for the history buffs in this room? Mm-hmm. Fernando Manny was going on. Fernando Valenzuela, who recently passed away, was going through his torrid rookie season with the Dodgers. That's the only reason Tom Seaver didn't win the NL Cy Young that year, was because of Fernando Valenzuela. We also had, I think, Charlie Yastrzemski, I think, was his final season. Mm-hmm. We had a perfect game, a no-hitter by some obscure pitchers. So it was a great baseball season that was unfortunately ruined by Bowie Kuhn. So those of you who have issues with Rob Manfred, and if you don't like the pitch clock or whatever else he's done, if you don't like Bud Selig for trying to contract the Minnesota Twins and contracting the Montreal Expos, let me assure you that Bowie Kuhn worse than both of them combined, because he screwed over our beloved Reds in 1981 trying to save revenue from the strike.
Right. I mean, the fans were not very happy about the strike, obviously. And he devised a split so what happened was the players went on strike in the middle of the season. It lasted about 50 days. And everybody was wondering, okay, how do we resume the season? What are we doing about the standings? And he decided to do the split season concept, which was, and he knew the fans were angry. And so he said the teams in first place as of the last day of play before the strike automatically qualified for the playoffs, regardless of what happened in the future. So the Yankees, for example, they won their division in the first half. If you look at it cumulatively, they would not have even qualified for the postseason. They had a terrible second half. Now, ironically, and you can wonder what his motives were, or coincidentally, the 4 leading teams at the end of the first half were all big market teams. And so he was guaranteed some interest in TV in the postseason. Or he might have just thought it was the right thing to do. The Reds initially objected. They took a vote on this. The Cardinals voted against the split season concept because they were doing very well. The Reds voted against, but they kind of gave up the ghost. When push came to shove, they didn't push it. I think they lost the vote 10-2 for the split season concept. But it was Bowie Kuhn's deal. Marvin Miller was head of the Players Association at the time, and they just never negotiated that when they resolved the strike. The strike ended when the owners' strike insurance fund through Lloyd's of London ran out.
Coincidentally.
But the players lost $28 million during the period of the strike, and the owners kind of coincidentally also lost $28 million during the course of the strike.
Yeah, and before we take questions, I think I'll note the discrepancy in games played too, which is a little bit of another irritating fact. So the Reds finished, I think, if my math is right, 108 games played. Dodgers, who finished ahead of the Reds in the standings, finished with 110. The Cardinals, who were also screwed over in this process, 103. Cubs played 106. So we're all over the map. Now there's some rainouts that take into effect there, but we couldn't even get to an equal number of games played, which reflects the travesty of this season too. So it didn't just affect the Reds, which was our main gripe, but it also affected our hated Cardinals and some other teams. And the discrepancy in games played was true across the AL too. So it really was a cockamamie setup.
Yeah, in the first half of the season, the Reds finished 1/2 game out of first place in the first half. Well, they had played one less game, than the Dodgers. So theoretically, if they would have just played each other, they could have resolved this matter. But Bowie had other ideas.
That's right. Anything else before questions?
I don't think so.
All right.
If there's any questions.
Yes, in the back.
Yeah, I remember that well. Now we're here again. The contract's due, the impasse is still there. What's going to happen in the next year, in your opinion?
With the Players Association?
It's the same situation as 81, so it's happening, it's deja vu all over again.
It's deja vu all over again. The fight in 1981 was all about free agency because of the players gained the right to free agency in the mid-1970s. And Marvin Miller actually compromised. I don't know if anybody really knows this, but the decision to give the players the right to free agency would have been after their very first season. If you played out your contract, you could become a free agent. And Miller actually compromised when he negotiated with the owners in 1976. And he said, I tell you what, we'll agree that the players can only become free agents after they have served 6 years in the major leagues. So he compromised on that. And what happened was the owners still wanted to claw it back more. They wanted to have compensation if a player left one team and went to another team. And the compensation would have been somebody from the major league roster. Now, what's going to happen next year? Is the contract up after the 2026 season?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be a mess because of all the TV issues we've got going on. I know some owners want a lot more revenue sharing. So I would say my money's on a work stoppage in 2027.
Yes.
I'm going to disagree with you, Randy.
Okay, Jim?
Work stoppage is going to be a short one. I'd say no more than 25 days. And I'll tell you why. Because what's going on with the TV revenue stream is only part of the problem. Baseball is losing attendance at different levels and in different ways. We have, this year, for example, we have 2 minor league stadiums being used for professional baseball, Major League Baseball at minor league stadiums. One because of a hurricane, the other because of incompetence in the ownership, and the city of Oakland not coming together on a new stadium in Oakland. So those issues are revolving at the same time. I think baseball players, the one thing they don't want is a salary cap. If they can prevent the salary cap, they'll go back to work. That's my prediction.
Well, good. I like that.
Yeah, I like the optimism.
But I like a good lawyer. You know, Jim's a good lawyer. Because I said there would be a work stoppage. I predicted a work stoppage. And he starts off by saying, I disagree with you. Then he says there'll be a 25-day work stoppage. Okay. Yeah. Jim knows more about base. I mean, he knows more than anybody. He's forgotten more than I know. So, yes, sir.
So will there ever be a competitive balance in baseball again? Will it just be the teams with the deepest pockets can spend the most and win? Or will we ever see the day where everybody has an equal chance?
I don't think I'm as optimistic on this one. I think the status quo will prevail.
I think it'll get better. It'll get closer. I think they're going to do something with revenue sharing. They're going to move toward that. I know Phil Castellini says that he's optimistic that they're at least going to move in that direction. But, you know, small market teams can still do well. If you got to be smarter. You know, you got to have a better farm system. You got to have better scouts. Some of these big market teams have wasted a lot of money on expensive contracts. I don't think you'll see Ellie in a Reds uniform when he qualifies for free agency. They'll probably trade him before that happens. And I think that's what a small market has to do.
So if only there were a model somewhere in professional sports that Major League Baseball can emulate. Oh wait, there is.
Oh.
National Football League.
Yes.
Yeah. Good luck to the MLB owners agreeing to that, but
Yeah,
maybe we can dream one day.
that's right.
What do you think of Tito? Is he going to take us to the promised land?
Absolutely. I love Tito. I think Terry Francona, it's a lot like, you know, who was the manager in 1990 when the Reds went to the World Series? Lou Piniella. Who was there in 99 when they had a really good season? The guy with the...
McKeon.
Jack McKeon. Then we had Dusty. You know, we went to the terrible season when they went to San Francisco and won the first 2 games and came back home. But Dusty was a good manager, took them to the playoffs a few times, and then he gets axed. And really, we haven't had anybody like Tito Francona in a long time. I mean, he arguably is the greatest manager of all time. And my understanding is he even took a haircut on what he could have made in other cities.
Who was the Reds manager in 81 through
John McNamara. Johnny Mac. Yes, sir.
Are there any rule changes underway that will garner more fan attraction?
This season, I don't
believe
think there's
I
any
believe
more.
the challenge system with umpires will probably come into effect next season. They've tested out in spring training this year. I think to what Rob Manfred said was positive reviews from all the stakeholders involved. I would expect
the automatic ball and strike zone.
Yeah, and I think as it wouldn't be every at-bat thing. Players would basically have like one, I think, chance to challenge
A
each.
couple challenges a game.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's done in a way where it will move quick, sort of similar to the way the tennis Hawkeye system works.
Yeah.
Will be displayed on the big board
Yeah.
in center field. So I don't think, other than that, I don't think there's any major rule changes for 2025. Feel free to correct me, but.
I'm an umpire, so I'm not in favor of the ABS system, which is automatic balls and strikes. I do some high school baseball. And I imagine the scenario where somebody's throwing a perfect game. There's 2 outs, 9th inning, 3-2 count, and the guy's got a perfect game and the ball's a little bit out of the zone. I think the umpire ought to have a little discretion.
This is where we show our age gap. Bring me the technology. I want to see the call right.
Yes. James Joyce. Yep. James Joyce is the umpire in that Geico commercial with Ken Griffey Jr. and his wife. Have you ever seen that where they're out in their front yard and the umpire walks in and tosses them out or something? That's James Joyce. Yeah.
So, I haven't read the book. I'm going to read it. I don't want to spoil or make a spoiler alert, but in the real world, what do you think would have happened had you not conceded and withdrawn the complaint? What do you think that the outcome and the steps would have been, the timing and all of that?
Well, it would have been pretty difficult to prevail against Major League Baseball, realistically. First, we weren't exactly lawyers yet. Secondly, we had no money. I think it would have, theoretically, it would have at least caused a temporary inconvenience for Major League Baseball, because if you do file a complaint and ask for a temporary restraining order, judges consider that an emergency and they put it on their docket, but theoretically the judge should have had a hearing immediately. Monday morning or Tuesday morning when we walked in there, I was thinking, he may actually order a hearing to be conducted the next day. And then what the heck do we do? But I think the theory we had was that all the Major League Baseball teams sold season tickets to the games, right? And the promise was always, if you bought season tickets, you would get postseason tickets. And so our theory was they've been promising that if you buy these season tickets and your team qualifies for the postseason, you get playoff tickets. And the Reds qualified for the postseason by having the best record in baseball, and their season ticket holders should have been rewarded by being able to see some playoff games.
Now, did you have standing as a season ticket holder?
Yes, I did, sort of. My family was season ticket holders. So our family's been season ticket holders since 1957, I believe.
Thank you for being here today. So I'm interested in the economics of professional sports. You can barely get a ticket to an NFL game, even the Bengals when they're not doing very well. Major League Soccer is on the ascendancy. You can hardly ever get a ticket to a Major League Soccer game. You can always seem to get a ticket to a Reds game, except you won't be able to probably on May 14th when it's Pete Rose Day. But anyway, what's it going to take? Maybe 1 or 2 things that baseball needs to do to change their trajectory so that stadiums are full instead of empty.
Well, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I think they have to win, not even my generation over, because I think there's quite a bit of baseball fans in my generation. I'm 36. But the younger generation, I think, is what they're fighting against there. I think it's just an attendance issue, period, for the younger generation of going to baseball games. And I think it's been better over the last couple of years as far as the league embracing its stars and promoting its stars. Like Ellie's everywhere, Shohei's everywhere now. But back when Mike Trout was actually healthy and playing well, it took them quite a while to promote their stars and make them appeal to a younger generation, which actually the younger generation tends to latch on to individual players more, in my experience. Working at a college and interacting with a lot of young people, they're fans of individuals far more often than they are of teams. Randy, I'll let you add to that.
Well, I think, I don't know if anybody can Google out here, I think Major League Baseball attendance last year set records. You know, now you can buy a ticket to a Reds game because there's 81 games. You know, they still drew 2 million fans last year. Can you imagine if the Reds only had 10 home games a season like the Bengals? Pretty sure they would sell out. So I think it's just there's so many games. No one game in baseball is as important as one game in football, right? We lose today, we're not going to be that upset. You lose the opener against the New England Patriots, you're pretty upset. You know, there's only 16 games left. But I think it's just, 81 games. I mean, they still drew 2 million people.
Thank you.
So.
All right.
I had the chance to meet this guy. It was like a ghost when I was at Crosley Field out in Blue Ash. I was walking with an old red Freddie Norman, and all of a sudden around the corner comes Dick Wagner. I thought I was looking at a ghost. How much of Dick Wagner is in your book?
We got quite a bit about Dick Wagner.
We do, yeah.
And his ascendancy with the team, and how he really didn't protest that much when there was a split season announced, and how they were going to do the postseason. I would say the book is not exactly positive about Dick Wagner.
And I think that also has a lot to do with the decisions he made preceding the strike as well, letting certain players go, shipping off. Was he responsible for the Tony Perez trade?
That might have been just Howsam.
But there are other
But he let Pete go.
Other departures, yeah, let Pete go. So
Yeah, so the very first chapter in the book is kind of a history of the Big Red Machine that Grant wrote. So we go through that whole thing, and writes about Perez leaving, Rose, Morgan. Yeah,
the ascent.
It's called the Big Red Machine's Last Hurrah, and we only had 4 members of the Big Red Machine still on the team in 1981.
Right. Well, thanks everyone. That's all the time we got, so appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just stay up. You can stay up for 1 second.
Okay.
Are you hopping out immediately, or can you stay?
We're gonna stay and do some books.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we can do that.
So Randy and Grant will stay here. We'll do some books, and we want to honor your presentation by 2 things. One, we have a special coin as a honorarium of today's presentation. It has the Rotary, the Cincinnati skyline on the one side, and our 4-way test that you heard earlier. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We'll also be making a donation in your honor to End Polio Now, which is our global campaign to eradicate the world with polio, in your honor, so thanks for speaking. You'll be behind signing books and selling books as well, so, and answering questions, I'm sure, so they won't leave until your questions are answered. Appreciate you being here, so thanks, Randy and Grant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.